Welcome back, guys. Just remember one thing about my videos. This will be a series done on Cannibal Giants in the Americas. Particularly, everything I'm doing today is going to be recorded. I'm going to kind of build these episodes one by one. They're not prescripted. They're not edited. There's no. You're doing this with me. You're joining me in this journey, just to experience what is out there, to question the known or the narrative we've been fed by historians, and eliminating the fact checkers that have just completely made the internet right now a dangerous place to be, to try to question the official narratives that we've been fed. So a lot of you have this kind of interest in this subject, and my opinion is there's been a lot of people that dabbled into it. A lot of productions that have been made with a lot of investment, which we don't have here. I do have one of my friends, Roderick. I need him to, he can maybe jump in too eventually when he's ready. But not many people are interested in this type of subject to actually come out and do a video that's going to be seen maybe by thousands of people. It's a real big endeavor. I don't have that fear to me about people watching my videos. I don't have a fear. The least thing I fear is man, personally. Just to give you guys a heads up, I've been there. I've seen this. I've been face to face with a being that I could not. I can't really even pin down to this day. So, when you faced as a young boy, a creature that was, it still escapes my mind. It still seems so unreal to this day. But I really don't fear what people will think, because, the people you fear is the people that question your integrity. Normally, they try to bring you down. They're mockers, they're scoffers, and the mockers, scoffers in the Bible. If you're a Christian, you'll understand what scoffers and mockers are. There's a place for that. That if you read the Bible, you understand it. So there's judgment on that'll eventually come to pass. So to the mockers and scoffers, good luck, because that's you. Whatever. So not many people have questioned this, I know, that have actually had experiences in this subject. So here we go. Let's episode 3 of this series today on Cannibal Giants. Remember, we have CannibalGiants.com. We have Cannibal Giants on YouTube. All that needs to be built into a platform. So this is just trying to push it forward, give you guys some entertainment, some good time. Maybe it'll excite you. Like, I'm just going to move the camera down because the wallpaper behind me isn't real wood. Just so you guys know. So it's just this is put up for my grandson, my grandbaby. When he was born, this is where his crib was. So I use this as the 45 Days Room, West Chase Media, Utah Paranormal Activities, all the probably 100 digital platforms I have. Be a really good place to come do a podcast. Set a chair up, or maybe do two cameras. Get somebody that wants to bring over a tower and a monitor. Maybe we can do some editing and get a good podcast together, doing something live, discussing this fact. I know my sinuses are a big deal with the polyps and the allergies, but I'm ready to engage overall any of this at any time, because life's short. Literally, I'm 47 years old. 10 more snows, 10 more times the first snow comes, and I'll be like 57 years old. Put that in perspective. You just gotta think of how much time we have on this earth. So my time's ticking down. I know a lot of you guys don't. Life is short. It's fast. You've got to. The fortune favors the bold. Fortune favors the bold. That's it. That's the key to life. Love, happiness, your family. Fortune favors the bold. You only know for what you do here. So anyway, let's get on to the account of Chief Rolling Thunder. So we have now found something that connects the. I'm going to include the LDS religion too, guys. We're gonna get into that. I really want to dabble into that a little bit, because that's to do with the Lamanites and Nephites and the wiping out of the Nephites, because they become wicked. there may be a little more to that story that I think the public could digest at that in the 1800s. It was a little too much. Because remember, Joseph Smith found tablets in the mountains back east. We'll get into the mound builders and the bodies that were found there. So this is correlating with Native American history and events. It was even documented through the LDS Church and the tablets that they found, that Joseph Smith found. So the White Giants myth of the Comanche by a future archaeologist. Now, this comes to you by Forbidden Archaeology 2016. This is who posted this. Fair use. I'm not going to use it for monetary gain. This is just basically exploration into documentation and any kind of evidence to help in this this journey we're on here at Utah Paranormal Activities and Utah Paranormal Adventures and Cannibal Giants and Paranormal Beings. It's all paranormal, is not the normal. So that all includes, all this included, all this. Anyway, so cross-culture similarities in giant mythology are often cited as evidence that giants actually existed. The Comanche were included on a list of Native American societies that reportedly had legends of a race of white giants, a story that was printed by several prominent fringe websites in 2015, 2016, blah, blah. Did the Comanches really have such a legend? What is the source of the claims? Now, these guys are stating that the source of the claims was by this guy, and his journal, his book was actually 3 Years Among the Comanches, is where they said the first evidence of the Comanche, talking about the giants. Now remember, the Comanche speak an Aztecian dialect, and they were documented by the Spanish conquistadors, which is the only European written documents that we just got discussed about writing, and who brought writing to humanity, which is the fallen angels. This is where the first documentation of the Aztecian people, which we know is now connected to Utah, and this is what the Comanche said, why he was in captivity with them. Apparently he was a part of the Texas Rangers. In 1957, he wrote this account of ancient race of white giants. In 1957, let's see, innumerable moons ago, there was a race of white men. We went through this, 10 feet high and far more rich and powerful than any white man now living, which inhabited the large range of the country, extending from the rising sun to the setting sun. This fortification crowned summits. We went through all that on the last video. So they did flourish inside fortificated societies with like mountains. And it may be in a mountain range in a valley, then there'd be a mountain range in a valley. These giants lived in these fortified cities with advanced technologies, which was reported by the Paiute, by the way. So there's a connection. There has to be a connection there, because the Lovelock Caves, the chief's daughter talked about it. They were very advanced, and then at one time that they fell into disarray once the waters dried up. So that would link the Paiute Lovelock Caves and the Comanches, which there's a very, very, very close lineage and dialect between the two peoples. Anyway, the story gives credit to Dr. Donald Panther Yates for documenting the story that provides a dead link, it says dead link, to the blog post of DNA Consultant's website. The primary business of the DNA Consultant seems to be providing genetic ancestry tests. A 2012 blog post on a site titled Giants with Double-Rowed Teeth, Flattened Heads, and 6 Fingers contains a passage reported in the Epoch Times article but does not provide a citation. Where did it come from? And it quotes in the in a Google research bar, quickly returns an answer. It comes from the 1857 book by Nelson Lee called 3 Years Among the Comanches. Anyway, you can see the count of the Giants legend is on page 141 in this book, 3 Years Among the Comanches. It was published in 1859. Apparently, Lee was a Texas Ranger who fought in the Indian Wars. He became a cowboy in 1844, and in April 1855, he was with a group of cowboys who were attacked by the Comanches. Lee was the only survivor, was taken prisoner. Lee and the Comanches were notorious for doing that, by the way, taking prisoners. They did that constantly. Anyway, they're very, very warlike people. They went through a lot. Went through an awful, awful lot. I mentioned the Giants to the conquistadors to the Texans coming in, the Americans. Anyway, Lee's book reportedly relates his experience following his capture, according to this summary by John Simpkin. Some historians have questioned the reliability of the book. Some writers have pointed out. Now, some writers have pointed out. Who is some writers? I mean, well, some writers. If you even go back to 1855 or 1844, even when he published the book, 1859, these people, humanity was not advanced technologically. Their information was very limited. These writers were basically, cavemen compared to people nowadays in the information age and the, whatever. Intellectuals were dragging a plow behind a plow horse in a field in the middle of Kansas at that time. So, just because you had intellectual ability, you didn't have money, you wasn't getting anywhere in the world, in the Americas at that time. Clear up to the late 1900s. This is some writers, some fact checkers, some people, some things, who cares? You can't take that for anybody debunking this guy's story about the Comanches. The story that Lee relates then are of dubious reliability. Well, dubious reliability. That's another word. Sorry, guys, I told you it's bad down here. Anyway, dubious reliabilities. So, what is your dubious reliability? Well, we don't have any fact checkers to check the facts to tell you this actually existed. I have the Choctaws. I have numerous tribes, the Navajos, the Paiute, the Comanches, whatever, bro. Whatever, bro. I mean, it's just like, who cares? You're dubious. I already see the edge of the riverbank starting to slough off underneath my feet, standing it. Just debating what these people are basically trying to debunk a oral story that was passed to him by a Comanche. That the Americans have no idea. The Americans at that time, the only good blank was a dead one. That's how it went. Until Chief Joseph ran, and everybody talked about Chief Joseph in my last video because they mistaked him. They were saying he was the Comanche. He wasn't. He was a Nez Perce. But the public sentiment towards the blank problem at that time, I don't even trust half the garbage put out by anybody in that time period. It's racism on a whole nother scale. Huge scale. It's basically kill everybody that is of that descent. Less than humanity, and that's the way they treated Native Americans. So to have this type of documentation from a man that supposedly said he was captured by him, that he lived with them, and to say he wasn't a Texas Ranger, the founding of Texas. If you watch, you go to the history of San Antonio. You can check it on Spotify. There's a whole series on it. You'll start to understand when the Caucasians started piling into Texas. It was pretty much a show. Really was. Texas, just the records probably weren't there anyways. So I take him at his word. I do. Not like Jeremiah Johnson, but this sounds more reliable to other reports. Anyway, back to it. So there are no other sources that back up his accounts. He reported that he killed Rolling Thunder, the chief who told the story to escape capture, and some of the events he described may not have happened. He killed Chief Rolling Thunder. Well, those were bad times, guys. Those really were. And a Comanche knew dang well what he was getting into. He lived to die to go to happy hunting grounds. That's what he's after. So he apparently killed Chief Rolling Thunder, and just to get out of there. Escape capture probably is a misprint. It would have been escape capture is probably what they're saying, to get away. So he did kill him. The setting of Lee's tale about white giants provides another dimension to the story. In the paragraph prior to the one reproduced in the recent white giant stories, Lee writes the following page 140, 141 in the PDF version. So apparently you can look this up if you'd like to. All right, it's just, I'm not going to take an allergy pill because I'll get tired. This is what he wrote. So let's bear with me, guys. We're doing this together. We're on this hunt for the truth about the Giants. The Rolling Thunder, in order to convince me of the correctness of a belief, universal thought, the Comanche Nation conducted me to the western side of their strange village, where I saw with infinite astonishment and surprise dilapidated ruins of a large town in the midst of a falling walls of a great number of buildings, which in some remote age, beyond doubt, had lined spacious streets, was that appeared to have been a church or a cathedral. Its walls of cut stone 2 feet thick and in some places 15 feet high, including a space measuring 200 feet in length and perhaps 100 feet width. The inner surface of the walls in many places was adorned with elaborate carved work, evidently the labor of a master hand, and at the eastern end was a massive stone platform which seemed to have been used as a stage or pulpit. In my surprise at the beholding so unexpectedly this evidence of civilization in that wild region, I turned to Rolling Thunder and asked him if he could explain it. Another Rolling Thunder's explanations. Okay, we'll go with this. A length in the height of their power and glory when they remembered justice and mercy no more and became proud and lifted up. The Great Spirit descended from above, swept them with fire and deluge from the face of the earth. The mounds we had seen on the tableland were the remnants of their fortress, and the crumbling ruins that surrounded us all around that remained of the mighty city. In like manner, continued the Rolling Thunder, the day was surely come when the present white race, which is driving the Indians before it and dispelling them from their inheritance, and which in the confidence of its strength has become arrogant and boastful and forgotten God, will be swept from existence. Biblical, guys. Biblical. Totally biblical. Totally. I'm already impressed. I know he's probably got some biblical influence in his life because a lot of people were Christians in those days. But the whole point of the story, the Comanche chief could be to illustrate the belief that the material power of white invaders occupying would be transitory. We've heard a lot of that transitory inflation, transitory stuff. So whatever, seems kind of odd. Yeah, let's see. So they're saying the white men came and was eating up the Comanche land, was taking away their inheritance, was destroying their inheritance that was given to them after the Great Spirit wiped out the giants, the white giants that were there prior, that were more advanced, that the cities were crumbling. Now, so if anybody knows in Texas, maybe this is what they've been looking for. I saw a couple videos on YouTube looking for a giant wall in Texas. Maybe that's what that was linked to. They took him to a village. The village could have been the Mississippi. It could have been towards Louisiana. It could have been west into New Mexico. It could have been Mesa Verde. There are a lot of climatic issues that have happened in the past since 1844. We had the great snows of the 1880 something. We've had a lot of things happen that could have washed out a lot of these remnants of these giant cities. So, take what's worth, but that's pretty much links that to the chief of the Comanches, Rolling Thunder. But he did kill him, and I'm not really too impressed with that. But it was a brutal time.
From the rising sun.
So back to this guy, these people
basically he means
on Space Busters.
White giants from coast to coast.
Oh.
He said their fortifications crowned the summits of the mountains, protecting their populous cities situated in the intervening valleys.
Huh.
They excelled every other nation which was flourished, either before...
Which would make sense. This guy's just back in what we talked about earlier. Yeah, if the mountains sloughed off, and which we have all the alluvial gravels and mud, sludge that's in all of our valleys now in the west, it would be a very good possibility that hundreds of feet down in our valleys there is cities that the giants had built. Yes, a very good possibility.
Before or since, in all manner of cunning handicraft, were brave and warlike, ruling over the land they had wrestled from its ancient possessors with a high and haughty hand.
Yeah.
Compared with them, pale faces of the present day were pygmies in both art, building, and arms.
Yes, they're talking about what he's talking
The
about.
chief explained that when this race of giants forgot justice and mercy and became too proud, the Great Spirit wiped it all out, and all that was left of their society were the mounds still visible on the tableland.
Okay, tableland. So this is a Comanche tableland location. Where would the tableland be located? Tableland that's back east. So where is the tablelands? The mounds. Tableland mounds. Teltec Mounds Archaeology State Park, Wikipedia, but that doesn't say tablelands. Yeah, table. Archaeology table. Mound, no. Huh. Where's the tablelands? Interesting. Very interesting. I'd say. One word, tablelands, dash in the middle. High plateaus. That's what it's saying, high plateaus. So that right there, guys, would be an interesting adventure. So they are saying that there's mounds on the tablelands. Tablelands directory. Directions. Tableland mantle. It's all looks like southwest. Or where would it be? Well, Queensland, Newfoundland, Australia. I don't know. I don't know what he means by that. What was the meaning of that, guys? Comment. Tablelands. America. Where's this at? Where's that? Southwest Tablelands, Wikipedia. Tablelands, U.S. Mammal species. Southwestern Tablelands. Colorado, Kansas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. Okay, so there's our start. Yeah, they're saying what's left of them is in Colorado, Kansas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. Wikipedia. Where's the tablelands of the U.S.? Comprised of running east central to southeast Colorado, east central, and small portions of eastern New Mexico. Some eastern portions of Oklahoma, Panhandle, far south central Kansas. So where did he get that knowledge from the tablelands? Maybe it's just a reference. Let's click on the Great Plains and level definition. No, it doesn't say. So I would say the tablelands went clear to Texas. You know, it doesn't really give me a definite answer. So I think what they're referencing to is that general area, Texas, Panhandle, Oklahoma, New Mexico. So basically Comancheria is what would be the general rundown. I don't know of mounds in that area. If you guys do, please comment and inform me.
This account was documented by Dr. Donald Yates.
They're showing pictures
and author of
back
books
east
on Native American history.
But that's a plains mound in a
The
drawing.
Navajo people of Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah speak of the Starnake people, a regal race of white giants endowed with mining technology which dominated the West. They enslaved lesser tribes and had strongholds all throughout the Americas. They were either extinguished or went back to the heavens. They do not say how.
We talked about that.
The Choctaw people of Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, and Florida speak of the Nahulo, a race of white giants that once inhabited the now state of Tennessee, with
Nashville,
whom their ancestors fought when they
Chattanooga,
arrived in Mississippi in their migration
Knoxville.
from the west. Their tradition states the Nahulo was of wonderful stature. That means giants.
Yeah.
They were said to be cannibals whom the Choctaw killed whenever the opportunity arose. This account was given by Horatio Ardwell Cushman in his 1899 book, History of the Choctaw, Chickasaw, and Natchez Indians. Finally,
Yeah, there's another Choctaw. They comment, or he or she. I'm a Choctaw descent. Every tribe has stories that of run-ins with these beings. So yeah, it's it's there. It's all there. But the Tablelands is where the Comanche chief was saying. Rolling Thunder was saying that's where the last of them were. That's a good possibility. Anybody has any information on mounds, the Tablelands area, which is Oklahoma, New Mexico, Texas area, the Comancheria, let me know. There's probably other articles we can research to find out what has been discovered so far and what the museums have come in and stolen and hid, buried. Let's see. What else we find here? What else we find here? So let's do the Book of Mormon. And let's do Nephites. And Lamanites. I really want to sneeze, guys. Just itchy, just tingling in my face. I want to sneeze! So even in this depiction, it shows the Nephites being much more heavily armored and clad in this. So, let's see. Oh my gosh, guys, it's just, my nose is going. Let's see. According to the Book of Mormon, the Nephites are one of, yeah, that's almost spelled like some of the words I've seen in the native tribes about that, are one of the groups, along with the Lamanites, Jaredites, and Mulekites, to have settled in the ancient Americas. The term is used throughout the Book of Mormon to describe the religious, political, and cultural traditions of a group of settlers. We're digging a little deeper, getting a little deeper, guys. So let's get to, let's do Wikipedia. Might be quick. We want to try it. The Lamanites are one of the four ancient peoples. The Jaredites, Malachites, and Nephites. We had pretty much, we could probably find out something else. There might be something else in that too. South Ancient America, Book of Mormon, text of Latter-day States, the Book of Mormon narrative. Lamanites began as wicked rivals to the more righteous Nephites, which they were righteous, which the natives had just said, the tribes just said, the Comanche just said, but they become wicked and they were wiped out. But the Nephite civilization became dissident, so distant from God. It lost divine favor and was destroyed by the Lamanites. Latter-day Saints have historically associated Lamanites with present-day Native American cultures. Okay. According to the Book of Mormon, the family of Lehi, described as a wealthy Hebrew prophet, the family of Ishmael and Zorab, traveled from the Middle East to the Americas by boat in and around 600 BC. Now, we have the South American tribes talking about some giants getting off a boat, red-haired giants, white people, and their calves were as big as the natives there were only went up the knees of these people. So, you know, what are we looking at? What are we looking at? Because was it that the Lamanites were so small in stature, which happens all over the world, by the way, that encountered these Nephites as they first came? The families originally came to the Americas from Jerusalem. There may be a connection. A son of Lehi was concerned that his brother Laman and Lemuel were plotting to kill him, and so he, his family, and his followers left and went into the wilderness. The followers of Nephi called themselves Nephites and referred to others as Lamanites, after Laman, Nephi's eldest brother. After the two groups separated from each other, the rebellious Lamanites were crushed and cut off from the presence of the Lord. They received a skin of blackness so they would not be enticed to the Nephites. Enticing the Nephites. Oh, so it was a racial thing. I get it. The Book of Mormon describes anonymously that the Lamanites held animosity. Animosity. It's really small writing. The Book of Mormon also recounts that the Lamanites felt that they were wronged specifically by Nephi as so swore vengeance against his descendants. So Lamanites were against Nephites because of what Nephi did, and vice versa. Oh, there's a lot in here, guys. A lot in here. Oh, let's see. However, 84 years after the coming of Christ, a small part of the people who had revolted from the church started calling themselves Lamanites again. Those who remained were again identified as Nephites, but both groups were reported to have fallen into apostasy. The Book of Mormon reacts. Okay, so we gotta go back. So it says the Lamanites were worth with him. Nephi became, because he did wilderness, Lord commanded him and took recounts. Yeah, so the two groups went to war. They just, Lamanites, Nephites went to war, and it seems like however 84 years after Christ came, there were small bands that broke off, that survived. They battled for 2 centuries. This makes perfect sense. When you go out back in the day when there was arrowheads in Utah, you'd find war arrowheads that are smaller, not hunting arrowheads. The big game arrowheads were big, bird tips, rabbit tips, which they usually use for rabbits because rabbits are easily snared or hit with a boomerang, which I seen that picture of a local tribe guy holding a boomerang. Just saying. But realistically, the warheads were the majority of what we found. I was told by archaeologists this was Aztec land. The Fremonts were there in the Paranormal Valley. Paranormal Valley was divided between two different empires. And I've read numerous archaeological accounts that this was the continent of conflict. When bodies are found here or remains are found here, they're usually met at very violent end with arrowheads stuck in their chest. Very, very violent times here. So that would make sense. 2 centuries, 200 years of war in the Americas over the Lamanites and Nephites. But I do have I have an opinion. I think that the Giants may be to blame for this war. I think that the Native American history is reliable. I think that their taking of this coincides with the Mormon plates found in the mounds, eastern U.S. It was Native American mounds, and I think there is a correlation between the two. I think we found the link that maybe this was a corruptive flesh giants that were here during the biblical times that left and landed on the shores of America, which would make sense with the small people that were here, documented by the Spanish conquistadors versus the giants when they encountered the villages with small people and the giants ruling them. And the rest of the tribes were at war with them. Anybody who wasn't a part of the very, very, very small in stature race or tribes, they were pretty much at war with the giants, is what I'm understanding. That was your Comanche, which was a huge Comanche empire. They were the Comanche and the Aztecs are all Shoshones. The Utes are Shoshones. They're all Shoshonian people. They were a massive empire here. But that would make sense why, when the Spanish came here, there was nothing left. Anyway, thanks for watching episode 3, 32 minutes, 33 minutes, 34 minutes. I will get back with you with episode 4 shortly. Thanks for watching, guys.